idea for the show.
I still don't know what the idea is.
It's about nothing.
Right.
Everybody's doing something. We'll do nothing.
They say, what's your show about? I say nothing.
There you go.
I think you may have something here.
Cross Coast Spice presents the League About Nothing podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time for the Week 5 recap and Week 4 of my co-host's Existential Dread podcast.
Let's just get through this, please.
Oh, come on. Let's have a positive attitude to start things off.
I'm positive that I don't want to talk about this last week.
All right, Week 5 is in the books. We had a pretty good week as a league. 195.82 is the median, slightly down from last week, but still pretty impressive. We've got a nice recap, but before we get to those matchups, we're going to start with our waiver recap. Not a lot of action on the waivers. One big name last week. Sterling Shepard went for $21 to JMC. Two other bids, Al and Mel, continue their lockstep on waiver claims at $3 a piece. Apparently, JMC was the only one here who realized that Sterling Shepard is actually the wide receiver to own in Tampa Bay.
Right. He did score a touchdown.
He did. I guess they were saying on the broadcast that they were college teammates, Shepard and Baker. I didn't realize that.
Yep. Yeah, that's the only reason he's there on that team is because Baker lobbied to bring him in. And he was like the sixth string receiver in training camp and weren't sure. He didn't play at all in the preseason. Wasn't sure he was going to make the roster. But handy to have a solid veteran depth piece you can throw in when all of your other receivers get hurt.
Yeah, Shepard's he's a pro. He's a good guy to keep around on a roster. He's gonna know where to be, know what to do, even if he's not, the same player he was 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah, there's multiple devastating injuries have sapped most of his athletic ability, but
honestly impressive that he's out there at all.
Right. He could still get open. He got open for a touchdown in a clutch spot for them on Thursday. So it was a good waiver claim for JMC. Propelled his team to victory this week.
I'm not sure that was the only propelling factor, but we'll mark that one down in the positive column.
I think it was mostly just him playing me this week.
That probably had something to do with it as well. We had 4 other waiver claims on Tuesday. Only 2 that I want to touch on very briefly. Mel picked up Blake Whiteheart, and after his career day, Blake Whiteheart went on to do absolutely nothing after that, and then got up by the team just after Mel traded him away. So, Mel, I know you don't like it when I say you pick players up off of waivers and then trade them, but we're marking this one down in the win column for you. So it's a good thing in this instance. We'll get to that trade in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was the key component of that trade, but he was included in the trade. So
the only other, he was part of it. His name was in the trade list. The only other waiver claim that I want to touch on is you trolling big. You picked up Eric Ezukanma and then you proceeded to drop him like 2 hours later.
Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I had an empty spot, so I figured I'd put in a claim just to keep Big from abusing the free agent pool as an extension of his roster.
It's similar to you picking up and dropping Denzel Mims 1,000 times or trading or getting him included in every trade somehow. If you looked at the statistics for this league and who has been traded the most, some random person is scratching their head going, what has happened with Denzel Mims in this league?
Denzel Mims. I need to go get him again. He just had a tryout with the Cowboys. Good news is this is not going to come out until after waivers run.
Please, let the dream die. All right, we're gonna pop over after those waivers. There was no other waiver claims.
You don't want to talk about Aaron Shampkin?
No, we're done with this. We're moving on. He had 1.4 points. We're moving on. No one else made a lineup. No one else played more than 10% of snaps. Nope, we're moving on. All right. We had last week 7 trades. And I told everyone we needed at least 8 this week. You told everyone we needed 14. Well, I was closer. We got to 6. So,
short of expectations.
Not terrible. 6 is still a good number. That's basically a trade a day.
Not good enough.
All right, we're gonna start off the trade recap with a 2-part trade here. So it was 2 separate trades between Mel and Georgia Mike. I'll read off the first one first, and then I'll read the second one. We can discuss them as kind of a combination of things.
Right, because really it was one trade. They just tried to structure it so the players that were playing on Thursday wouldn't be impacted. But apparently we did that anyway. So
Yeah, we had that discussion in league chat today. We're recording on Tuesday evening, if anyone doesn't know. But the first trade, Mel received Zach Ertz, Emmanuel Wilson, a 2025 first round pick attached to Big's roster, and a 2026 first round pick attached to Georgia Mike's roster. In return for that, Georgia Mike received Austin Eckler and Kyle Pitts. This is a big boy trade. There's a lot going on there. Let's read off that second one really quick before we get into any of it. The second offer, the part 2 of the trade. Mel received Mitch Trubisky and Ben Sinnott, and Georgia Mike received Daniel Jones and a 2025 third round pick attached to Flinch's roster. So we've got a lot going on here between these two trades. I'll let you start. Go ahead. What do you think of this?
all right, well, obviously the big piece for our league is Kyle Pitts, who had struggled pretty mightily coming into Thursday night. He had a nice game on Thursday. Welcome to the new roster. But Pitts is obviously the big piece. Georgia Mike is trying to be a competitive team this year. He's gone as all in as you can go, really, with the roster he had, and he needed some help at tight end. He had picked up Zach Ertz and a first from Big in a deal last week, and he immediately put those to work in acquiring an upgrade at tight end, theoretically, in Kyle Pitts. He also picked up some running back help, picking up Austin Eckler to help his depth there, and another quarterback in Daniel Jones in the other deal, and a third round pick to kind of throw around later if he needs to buy some more depth. So it was a big haul for Georgia Mike on a team that's trying to force his way into the playoff picture. And then on Mel's side, he picked up a couple of depth pieces. Trubisky kind of gives him a handcuff to his Josh Allen. Wilson, Ertz, nice veteran bench pieces that can kind of make their way into a lineup a couple times a year. But really the 2 first-round picks gives him a lot of flexibility. He's now got 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years. It gives him a lot of options on ways he can upgrade his roster. With the emergence of Tucker Kraft, he had some tight end depth to be able to make this move. Tucker Kraft.
Sorry, I interrupted right now. I'm like, who the heck are you talking?
I was like,
Tyler.
Taylor.
There's no Tyler in this trade at all.
Like Tyler Kraft. Tucker Kraft.
It's really a Pitts trade. I mean, there's other pieces, but it could be argued that Daniel Jones is. I hate to say this because I'm a Giants fan. It's going to sound homerish, but I think Daniel Jones has looked good. I know that the team is not good. I don't think it's entirely on him. I mean, part of this is obviously Neighbors has, emerged as, what was he up to? Dynasty wide receiver 2 or something like that on most ranking sites.
Regardless of what you think about Jones, he's a quality depth. He's a very good quarterback 3, which is the role he'll fill for Georgia Mike's team.
Yeah. And it relatively inexpensive to acquire one at that. It's really Pitts for the 2 firsts, and then the rest of it is, let's shuffle some depth pieces and some window dressing and see what happens.
Exactly. It's Pitts for 2 firsts, basically, which is top of the market value for Kyle Pitts. It wasn't long ago that he was worth far more than this in most people's eyes, especially in a format like this. And, slow start to the season, which he may have turned around on Thursday. But, yeah, still a heavy price for Georgia Mike to pay. But if there's one position to throw around picks on, it's an impact tight end. Guys like this, especially his age, his profile, his early career production. This is the spot that you're throwing around first on. We talked about it when he bought Trevor Lawrence. If you're going to get a franchise quarterback, it's worth paying your first early. If you're going to get a young, potentially impactful tight end in this kind of format, then that's worth spending some capital on.
Yep. And this is Georgia Mike pushing all in. He already traded his 25 first. This is his 26 first. He's, obviously his team is in a good position right now, and he won this week with the number one score in the league. So
Yep.
the team is obviously producing, but this is not a half measure move. This is a full in, full send. Let's do it. And this is basically his last chance for a big splash. He's got, his 27 capital, but then we're pushing 3 years into the future. And I'm sure anyone is hesitant to do that, except for Flea. She's excited to do that. She says,
Who needs draft picks?
listen, when you got a roster like that,
She's just she's just auditioning for her future role as the Rams GM.
yeah, fuck them picks. Anyway, it's an interesting offer for both Mel and for Georgia Mike because Mel is competing right now as well. He was in the finals last year. This is not a rebuilding team. You generally don't see teams that are legitimate title contenders sell off pieces like Pitts and Eckler or even Jones in season.
I think the key to this deal for Mel is the reemergence of Justin Fields as a high-end fantasy asset, and the breakout of Tucker Kraft kind of solidifying his tight end room. With those guys getting unexpected top end production for him, it kind of gives him the flexibility to say, hey, let me move some other assets, pick up some draft capital that now he can use. 4 first round picks in the next 2 years can buy him pretty much anything he wants to add to this team now.
Yeah, he's got the capital to go out and spend on a different tight end if he wants to, or any other position that he needs. As if Fields loses that job when Russell Wilson comes back, which I don't. Last week I said Wilson has lost that job. This week Tomlin was answering questions to the media about who will be starting at quarterback. So I guess that one isn't entirely settled.
There's always a chance that Justin Fields leaves the door open for Russell Wilson by playing like he has in the last several years. Yeah. This week wasn't a great week for him. So,
yeah. So we'll keep watch to see what Mel does with his bevy of picks, and we'll keep an eye on Georgia Mike as he continues to shoot up the ranks. All right, we're going to move on to our next trade, which we're not going far. Georgia Mike was involved in this one too. Georgia Mike sent my team a 2025 fourth round pick, his own, and Troy Franklin, and in return he received Rico Dowdle. Listen, I've only been trying to sell Rico Dowdle on this very podcast for a month. Thankfully, someone was finally listening, or maybe not.
And you've been trying to buy Troy Franklin for even longer than that.
I've been trying to buy Troy Franklin since literally the minute he got drafted.
Yeah, since like February.
I'm not kidding. When Georgia Mike drafted Troy Franklin in our rookie draft, I was like, "Do you want like my next 2 picks instead?" Declined, as one might imagine. So here we are. I finally got Franklin on my roster. He proceeded to drop a touchdown this week. Thanks a lot, Troy. Georgia Mike adds a little bit of running back depth, picks up Dowdle.
Yep, this is a very cheap running back depth addition for Georgia Mike. Dowdle got in the end zone this week, so
it was the RB3 this week.
Yep, immediate returns. Rico Dowdle, he's been getting more and more of the workload every week, so this is about as cheap starting running back as you can buy. Yep. It was a good deal for Georgia Mike. Yeah,
Dowdle wasn't doing anything for my roster other than adding to my max points for, which frankly I don't really care about because I'm not a playoff contender, let alone a title contender.
Right.
So,
no reason for you to have him. He's probably not the long-term answer for the Cowboys at running back, but he is the answer right now.
Yeah, he's 26 years old and has been around the league for like 4 years. Generally, that's not a breakout candidate at running back.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe he will be. Maybe I'll be looking back at this 2 years from now when Rico Dowdle is a perennial RB1 and think, oh man, I probably should have held for a bit. But, if that happens, well, it happens.
All that matters for Georgia Mike is he gets the production right now. He's trying to win right now. He's emptying the cupboard of picks and assets that he can trade to try to win right now. So he'll take the points.
And like I said, Franklin dropped a touchdown. He only had 1 catch for 20 yards this week. It's not like he's
career high.
Not like he's passing out a lot of production there. And a 4th round pick next year is essentially nothing.
Right. Yep. It was a good buy.
All right. And speaking of buying running backs in Georgia Mike, we're not done yet, folks.
Right.
All right, we had one more trade here between Georgia Mike and your team. So in this one, Georgia Mike picked up Devin Singletary and Jeremy McNichols. In return, you received back Dearness Johnson, a 2025 third-round pick attached to Flinch's roster, the one that Georgia Mike had just picked up from Mel, I believe, and a 2025 third-round pick attached to Georgia Mike's roster. So 2 third-round picks netted him Jeremy McNichols and, more importantly, Devin Singletary.
Yep. Another cheap running back buy for him. McNichols, obviously the Eckler and Brian Robinson handcuff. Got in the end zone again this week. So immediate payoff, even though Singletary missed this week. You got some production from McNichols immediately. But really, yeah, he's buying the Devin Singletary as the main runner for the Giants at a pretty cheap cost, I think. A couple of thirds.
That was not again, third round picks are useful for deals like this, but there are such low percentage hit chances when you get to the actual draft that it's usually better to spend them this way.
Yeah, better to have the production.
Especially as a contender. And you, sir, this is why your team lost this week, because you keep trading away all your pieces.
I mean, Singletary was not going to help me this week. And I didn't think that McNichols was going to score another touchdown with Robinson and Eckler back. But I've tried to pick up some flexibility to buy other pieces that could potentially help me. It didn't work out, unfortunately, for me. But that was the plan. That was the thought process here. Didn't actually come to fruition.
Was Singletary already ruled out when you guys made that trade?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he got it ruled out fairly early in the week. Yeah. So we knew going in that he wasn't going to have Singletary this week, but it's a rest of the season play.
Yep.
All right. Finally, we can move on from Georgia Mike buying every player on the market to a slightly lower stakes trade here between Flea and Mr. Good News. Flea picked up Olamide Zaccheaus, and in return, Mr. Good News got JMC's 2025 fifth round pick.
Yep. These are the type of deals that Mr. Good News needs to make. You know, pick up guys off waivers, shuffle them for whatever you can get. And yeah, we know Flea's always ready to buy production. She don't care about picks.
No. No, that's the mode she should be in, though. I mean, a fifth round pick, no, whatever.
Who cares? If Zaccheaus makes her lineup one time, it's worth it.
Yep. And so he's emerged as a piece of that apparently league best offense that Cliff Kingsbury is running in Washington. So she gets, at least some attachment to Phenom Daniels over there. And Mr. Good News gets a little bit extra capital that he can use to move up and down the draft or just take another flyer when the time comes. He's going to need to. He's got plenty of open roster spots. We all need those flyers. All right, we had one last trade to get to. This one took place today. Mel received Joe Flacco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And in return, I received Blake Whiteheart and a 2025 third-round pick attached to Mel's roster. So pretty straightforward here. This is essentially Joe Flacco for a third and a little window dressing on the side.
Come on. What about Clyde Edwards-Helaire? He's back.
Sure. Yeah, he's back.
He's buying points. He's buying depth.
Yeah. We've talked about this before. Or I've said this before. I'm pretty sure that Mel gets itchy if he has less than 4 quarterbacks on the roster. He likes to have his quarterback depth. And Joe Flacco has been extremely fantasy friendly when he's played, which if he continues to play, he's gonna score points.
There's a good possibility he hasn't made his last start of the season.
Richardson has not been the healthiest, and the offense has frankly looked better at times under Flacco.
He definitely keeps them on schedule a little better than
Well,
Richardson's a little boom bust.
Yeah. Now the team hasn't won, but he's 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah, and that was the big thing when he was with the Browns.
He was chucking picks at an unsustainable rate.
He was throwing it all over the place. Great for fantasy, but he was
4% interception rate.
He was also throwing 1 million interceptions.
4%. You can't run a functional offense above like 1.5. He was at 4%.
Yeah, so hasn't had that problem so far this year. But yeah, it's a good trade. Good to pick up some depth. This is kind of the point of the season where people start shuffling around these mid to late round picks to try to buy some depth for covering bye weeks and injuries. They start to kind of mount up this point in the season.
Yeah, and like you said, Hilaire will be coming back after the Kansas City bye this week. We saw Kareem Hunt seemingly take over that backfield this week, but he's
also Kareem Hunt.
I was going to say, he's been known to be injured, and he's been, this is his first action this year. Who knows? Maybe it was just a one-off thing and he'll go back to being bad like he was last year, or maybe that was a function of the offense around him. Who knows? But Hilaire's former first-round pick, knows the offense can be functional. If he gets a chance, he'll do something.
Yeah, it's very possible he slides at least into that backup role, primary, early down, potentially third down kind of backup.
Yeah, especially after we saw Steele try to throw the ball away on that reverse.
Right. Yeah, another fumble, back-to-back fumbles. That might be the end of the Carson Steele fun.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll keep monitoring the situation there. All right, but that brings us to the end of the trades for the week. 6 trades on the week. Not bad, everybody. Before we go, do you want to cover Big's trade in a different league where he sent Spencer Rattler and Rashad Bateman away for Jalen Polk and is it Jalen Wright?
Yes.
Jalen Wright. There's too many Jalens around.
Right. Spelled very differently.
Yeah. Anyway, we can take 10 seconds to cover that one if you want. I like that trade, to be honest with you. I think you got the 2 best pieces in it.
Yeah, it was a confusing trade. Why would you want
Rattler's probably
Rashad
in line to
Bateman?
start for the next couple of weeks.
Right, but he's also Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, it was a 5th-round pick and dropped for a reason. Yeah, I don't know.
Was not good in the preseason. He is currently behind Jake Hayner, who is also not very good.
No.
So
At least Hayner can run around a little bit. I don't know that
I'm not sure that I would throw away the potential upside of a Polk and a Wright for those two, but
Yeah. Anyway, we also don't know anything about that league. We don't know the league size, the scoring settings, the team dispositions, anything. But it was an interesting
in a vacuum.
brief snapshot.
It's a confusing trade.
Like I said, he got the 2 best pieces in it. I like it.
Right.
All right. So let's go to injuries. We're going to start off with quarterback injuries as usual. We have a few this week. Derek Carr hurt his oblique in the Monday night game, did not return, was replaced by Jake Hayner. As we discussed just a second ago when we were talking about Spencer Rattler. They've already ruled him out for the next week, possibly longer. He's week to week, I guess. So we'll probably see someone else starting for them going forward.
Yeah, the good news for Flea is her quarterback depth has been performing very well this year. So hopefully she won't miss him, depending on how the buys shake out for the rest of her quarterbacks. But hopefully she can kind of weather this storm a little bit. He's cooled off.
Doesn't sound
significantly from early on in the season.
Yeah.
So he hasn't exactly been a lineup staple recently.
No, the last 3 weeks have not been quite as good as the first 2.
It's Taysom Hill, man. He's the focal point of that offense. No Taysom, no touchdowns.
You're not
That's how
wrong.
it works.
It's bizarre.
They have like 15 touchdowns with Taysom and like 2 without him. He is the offense.
Such a strange player.
I know, but they are a different team with and without him.
They are. No, you're not wrong. I'm laughing
worse.
because you're right. I'm laughing because it's true. Aaron Rodgers has an ankle sprain. It's been reported as a low ankle sprain, so not a high ankle. Also, his coach was fired today.
I think
I just mentioned that.
Bigger Aaron Rodgers news. He has caused the firing of his head coach.
Oh, don't worry. His offensive coordinator is still there.
Oh, that's good. The savior. Robert Saleh might not be the best coach in the world, but he was certainly not dealt a great hand in New York.
He had some rough luck.
Being tied to Wilson and then being tied to the anchor that is Aaron Rodgers. It's not been
the
great.
Wilson thing, really. Like, you can't even blame the guy for any of the Wilson stuff.
Yeah, we don't know what part he played in, lobbying to get that guy in the building.
True. He could have been the main force behind drafting him. I don't know.
Right. Certainly didn't work out there. And you kind of had a feeling that things were probably going to go sideways this season when early in the offseason, Rodgers had skipped some mandatory practices to go to Egypt. And and Salah made some pointed comments about him supposed to be there, and it was not an excused absence. And then Rodgers got back and basically said, "Yeah, it was excused. They knew about it." And it kind of seemed like there'd been friction ever since that point, if there hadn't already been before that.
Yeah, I think you're probably correct. And it was
one of them had to go, and unfortunately, it was.
Yeah, you knew who the organization was going to choose in this circumstance, for better or for worse.
They've tied their fortune to Aaron Rodgers for better or for worse.
Yeah. And again, I don't think Salah's a great coach or anything. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but I don't think that he really he was there for a decent amount of time, but I don't really think he had the team to succeed. He's a defensive minded coach.
And the defenses were borderline elite the entire time.
Best in the league. Yeah.
He'll get a defensive coordinator job probably tomorrow. Someone will hire him as a consultant very quickly, and then he'll be a defensive coordinator next year for somebody.
I would imagine so. I don't know what coaching tree he comes from and who he's friends with, but there's always openings.
There's plenty of people that are part of the Shanahan tree.
Is he a Shanahan guy?
Yeah, he was the Niners defensive coordinator for a while.
I thought so, but I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't want to say it. What I want to see is some team clean house and bring in like Bill Belichick as head coach with Saleh as defensive coordinator. And then when McDaniel gets let go by Miami, we just get all the former New England NFC or AFC East head coaches and put them in the building together. See what happens.
Well, Sean McDermott's got some questions to answer after last week too. He might be feeling a hot seat.
Buffalo.
He might be feeling the hot seat here.
Yeah. Speaking of, we're in the injury section here. Josh Allen definitely got a concussion this week, and it was not reported. He did not come out of the game.
Yeah, I'm sure he's fine.
That man was unconscious on the ground.
I'm sure he was fine.
The NFL is still not good at identifying and actually making players come out when they appear to be or actually get concussed.
Yeah, it's really an impossible situation to do.
No. The players don't self-report. You can only do so much, but they're not going to. And it's neither here nor there. I'm not going to get into the morality and ethics of the players making those decisions and the coaches allowing them to make those decisions. But until and if that ever happens, the NFL is in a very difficult spot.
Yep.
Let's move on to some wide receiver injuries. Nico Collins injured his hamstring on a 60-something yard touchdown. Go ahead. Now you take over.
What, you want me to talk about the chat where you cursed him?
This is apparently my fault, everyone.
He said to Big, "Oh no, Nico," and he said, "Oh no, is he hurt?" He said, "No, he just caught a long touchdown."
Oh, I said Nico, damn, as
Nico.
in oh damn, that was a really nice play. He burned the entire defense, scored a long touchdown. Big goes, what happened? Did he get hurt? I was like, no, he just scored a really nice touchdown. Well, as it turns out, he did in fact get hurt
on the nice touchdown.
Went straight, to the tent, straight to the locker room. Oops.
Yeah, They originally called him day to day, but now they are calling him week to week, which is more likely since it's a hamstring injury.
Yeah, so not great. My bad.
Sorry, Big.
Yeah. Other wide receivers, this time on my team, turns out that Rashee Rice's injury was only his LCL. So we're updating this in the injury section because I feel like it's relevant. He didn't get hurt this week, obviously. Normally we save it for guys who got hurt this week. But Rashee Rice had his surgery. Apparently his meniscus, ACL, PCL are all intact.
Yeah, it's big news. I mean, he's still going to miss the season. But at least now you're looking at a much shorter recovery time, much less impactful injury to recover from. Should be back early, be able to participate pretty much in the entire offseason program, which is great news for you.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. And I'm sure Kansas City fans and the team and Rashee Rice himself are all happy to hear this news as well.
Yeah, it's probably close to the best case scenario based on how the injury looked.
Yeah, that was tough looking, but good for him. One other wide receiver injury I want to touch on. Actually, he's just a player who missed the game. Apparently, Romeo Dobbs has a bad attitude.
Right. Suspended conduct detrimental to the team because he skipped out on practice. He was upset with his role, which I'm very confused because he leads the Packers in all significant categories, snaps, target share. Like I don't know
Yeah.
what more he wants, but he's a wide receiver, so they always want the ball on every play. That's just
Oh, surprise! A wide receiver is being a diva.
par for the course for the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of surprised to hear this. I thought he was Love's favorite target essentially, and
He has been. He's been
Yeah.
out there more than anybody else, and he's got more passes thrown to him than anyone else.
True.
I understand the frustration playing with Malik Willis when they didn't really throw the ball, but yeah, with Love out there, he's been
He was
productive.
coming off an 8-target game the week before. I mean, only 39 yards, only 4 catches, but we knew coming into the year they were going to rotate a bunch of different wide receivers in and out. Nobody was going to be on the field 100% of the time. Maybe that wasn't made clear to them, or maybe it was, and he's just now frustration boiling over. Who knows?
Right.
Hopefully he's happier moving forward. I don't know.
Supposedly they had a meeting and kind of cleared the air, and he's supposed to return to practice this week. So we'll see what happens.
All right, over to the running back position. This is where we had some tough ones this week. Zach Moss hurt his ankle. He returned to the game, then left again.
Yeah, we won't know probably until the practice reports start rolling in over the rest of the week.
Yep.
But the bigger problem for him is Chase Brown has thoroughly outplayed him. He looks far more explosive. Zach Moss is still winning the snap share battle, but Brown has been getting the ball more on his lesser snaps and looks far more explosive. So it's only a matter of time before that flips.
Yeah, and Brown had another good week this week. We ended up with 17 points, got in the end zone through the air. So time may not be on the side of Zach Moss. All right, other running back injuries. Travis Etienne hurt his shoulder. Another one where the backup came in and looked better.
Right. Tank Bigsby's playing very well this year. If you're Travis Etienne, you don't want to leave that door ajar any amount because Tank Bigsby is just crashing through.
If you'll recall early in the year, I mentioned Bigsby and you made fun of me for it. I'm wanting to trade for him.
Based on the way he played last year, yeah, he seemed like an irrelevant piece, but he looks much better. Looks like a different player this year.
Does.
It's been quite the turnaround in short order for Tank Bigsby.
Good for him. Other running back injuries. Aaron Jones is week to week with a hip injury. Left, I think, early on in the game. This was the London game, so I missed a lot of it because children. But he hurt his hip, didn't come back. We'll keep an eye. Aaron Jones has been banged up every year for the last 10 years.
Good news is they're on bye this week, so gets an extra week to kind of heal up. We'll see. We won't get any updates on the injury until probably middle to late next week. So right now we don't really know. We're in the dark.
H&H had a concussion in the Miami-New England game. I think that one was also relatively early.
It was ugly too. It went into
not
fencing position. Not a good look, especially from the Dolphins team that's gone through this with Tua more than enough times.
That whole game was ugly. 15-10.
Yeah, not too prolific offenses right now in the Dolphins and Patriots, but both may be making some changes here. We've already heard the news that Brissett is mercifully being put out to pasture, and we're going to get the Drake May experience coming up.
Yeah, that ought to be at least somewhat more exciting. If
it definitely raises the ceiling of the offense, probably also lowers the floor.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
But at this point, we'll take any kind of excitement we can get because that offense has been dreadful. There is not a lot of fantasy value to be had in New England this year so far. Maybe Drake May can change that.
Hopefully, and maybe if he does, it'll pay off for Big and his new Jalen Polk shares.
Right. I'm assuming that was the impetus behind that move.
Who knows? That I'm not gonna try to get into the reason behind Big makes any trades.
He's got his reasons.
At tight end, Welcome back, David Njoku. We'll
See
see
you
you later, David Njoku.
Oh, man.
So Njoku came back this week and then left the game with a knee injury and is scheduled for an MRI now. So that's not what you want.
Not great. Finally ready to ease back in after the high ankle sprain, and he immediately injures his knee. So I would expect that my team will be without David Njoku at least this week, probably longer, even if it's a minor injury.
Yeah, they rushed him back and this is what you got. Well, maybe they didn't rush him back. He came back and this is what you got. I'm sure he wasn't 100%, but here we are.
Just
It's
unfortunate.
the nature of the beast. All right. That's it for the injuries for now. We're going to move over and start recapping these matchups. Our league median score this week was 195.82. And we're going to start off with our highest scoring team, Georgia Mike. Congratulations to Georgia Mike. He beat Flea's team. Georgia Mike put up that 239.15. Flea also over the median, so she goes 1-1 on the week. She put up 201.28. These are two playoff teams here. This is a playoff preview for us, or possible playoff teams, I should say.
Yeah, as of right now, these are two playoff teams.
Yeah,
And they
if the
played
season
like
ended today.
Played like it this week. Got some good scores.
Yeah, good day for Georgia Mike, led by Drake London, who put up a 40-point game on, was Thursday night, wasn't it?
Yep.
On the Thursday night football against Tampa Bay. Drake London has arrived, I think.
Yeah, he was a chain moving machine this week.
Yeah, wide receiver 2 on the week. 13 targets, 12 catches, 154 yards and a touchdown. That's what you like to see.
Yeah, 8 first downs. He was moving the chains all game.
Yeah. Caleb Williams, QB1 for Georgia Mike. Finally starting to show some fantasy life.
Yep, Bears offense is starting to wake up a little bit here as we progress into the season.
And his other quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, up at 24 points. A nice day for the new acquisition there.
Good debut for him, career high in yards.
Yep. And we mentioned a moment ago the David Njoku injury. Stepping in to fill the void there was Jordan Akins. And he ended up with a 14-point day in tight end 2 spot for Georgia Mike to go with Colby Parkinson and his 18 points.
Yep. Akins caught a touchdown. That's enough to get him in the lineup. Didn't do much besides that, 22 yards. But hey, you catch a touchdown, you get in the lineup. That's just how it works.
Those two scores were a big difference because on the other side of things, Flea had a 10-point day from Dalton Schultz, an 11-point day. And then her other tight end score was a 0.45 from Tommy Tremble, who had 1 catch, 7 yards, and a fumble lost.
Yeah, tight end continues to kind of be a bugaboo for Flea here. She needs Ingram back, really, is the problem. There's not a lot of depth behind Ingram.
It looks like he might be coming back this week. They've said that it's more likely than not that he's going to play. That'll be a nice boon for her team if it's true.
Not a moment too soon.
Interesting running back position for Flea this week. She had Tank Bigsby as a running back 1 and Travis Etienne as a running back 2. Don't expect to see that often, but it's nice when you get it.
Right. There's one time when the handcuff paid off here.
Yeah.
Both got in the lineup.
And some good scores on the day, but no other really big boom scores for her team. Mike Evans and Jalen Tolbert both around 25, 26 points. Why are there so many Jalens? Explain this to me. Did I miss the Jalen train like 25 years ago? I'm a Celtics fan. I'm used to Jalen Brown, but it's too many Jalens.
Potentially. I'm not sure of the cultural significance of the name Jalen from 25 years ago.
Well, that's do you want to know the actual answer to this? Because I'm pretty sure I know it.
Go for it.
It's slightly it's slightly more than 25 years ago. I'm pretty sure Jalen Rose of the Fab Five fame was the impetus for a lot of these children being named Jalen. Not
as many Chris though. I think Chris Webber might have gotten some of those.
Yeah, probably not. I'm going to ask, why is the name Jalen so popular? It was, according to Google, it was popularized by basketball player Jalen Rose.
Jalen Rose, interesting.
Whose name is a blend of James, me, and Leonard. There you go.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
The more you know.
It's been a while since we've had a live Google fun fact on.
I'd say not long enough.
All right, so moving on from the popularity of the name Jalen, Raheed Shaheed continues to produce and is probably worth that first round pick you paid for him 2 years ago or whatever it was last year.
I wish he was still on my roster.
So a nice high scoring matchup here between these two teams. Tough luck on Flea. She gets the 1-1. Nice for Georgia Mike to get that top overall score. It's always nice when you make a bunch of moves, make a bunch of trades, and then you're the high scorer that week. It's got to feel good.
Yep, a couple of guys that he picked up were impactful this week. Guys like Rico made the lineup, Aikens made the lineup, and a bunch of. He picked up Mo Alley Cox off the scrap heap for nothing, and he scored a rogue touchdown, his first of the year, so he's in the lineup. Sixth
best tight end in Indianapolis, right behind Anthony Richardson.
Right. But he's the one that got the touchdown this week, so he's in the lineup. Yeah, a lot of guys that we weren't really counting on in the preseason. Guys like Ray McLeod have been weekly contributors for him. Colby Parkinson has been in there almost every week, and he was kind of an afterthought after he got cut by Seattle. He got him for nothing in the offseason. A lot of these little moves have given him the depth necessary to be a competitive team, in addition to the players he's added throughout the course of the season in trades.
Yeah, well put. All right, we're going to move on to our next matchup. Our second highest scoring team of the week was Judd. Judd put up a 235.39. He beat Criddle, who put up a 164.54. So big game for Judd, led by Joe Burrow, Garrett Wilson, Darius Slayton, all 30-point days. Kirk Cousins, 36 points. Two really big quarterback scores for Judd this week.
Yeah, this was a stars and scrubs lineup. He got 4 guys over 30, and
he has a 0 in the lineup too.
Not much else behind that. But those highs were really high this week.
Yeah, the Cincinnati offense looks great. If that defense could be mildly competent,
they could just.
It would be nice.
They could just slow the other team down and hold them to field goals once in a while. Maybe they would have a chance, but otherwise,
you generally expect to win when you put up 38 points. Generally,
38's usually enough to win most weeks.
An interesting one here. Garrett Wilson finishes with 35 points. He had
22 targets.
13 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown, 6 first downs. I saw a stat. Your buddy Ben Solak posted it on online. He was like, this is basically the worst game anyone has had while getting 22 targets.
Second worst. Yeah.
Since Devontae Adams got 22 targets from Aaron Rodgers like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think he already had like 70 yards on 20-something targets.
I guess this is a pattern for Rodgers or something, fixating on his his number one receiver. And
101 yards on 22 targets is
pretty bad.
Not great.
That's pretty bad. Obviously
great.
For fantasy, a 36 or 35-point day is phenomenal. You'll take that every time.
Oh yeah.
You just would hope it comes a little bit more efficiently.
Right. When you see 22 targets, you're kind of hoping for more. 35 points is a lot, but you kind of wanted even more with 22 targets.
You would expect it a little bit. Yeah. Darius Slayton, 30 points on only 11 targets and 122 yards and a touchdown.
Who needs Malik Neighbors? We got Darius Slayton.
The Giants need, please come back, Malik.
They need him this week.
Yeah. They're going to need him every week.
They had Darius Slayton, who did his best Malik Neighbors impersonation this week.
The whole thing's considered, it was a pretty good impersonation.
Right?
And did you see Wandale actually broke a tackle this week? It's about time.
I'm going to need to see video evidence of this.
It's out there. And we talked before last matchup about Ray and Drake London both having good games. That's because Kirk Cousins threw for 509 yards.
Yeah, 58 pass attempts.
Yeah.
That'll pay the fantasy bills.
That it will.
500 yards and 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns, yeah. So heck of a day for Kirk Cousins. Let's let's take a look over at the other side of things for Criddle. Not his best week. George Kittle, wonderful day at the tight end position. Oh, let's do tight ends before we move on completely. So for Criddle, tight ends, George Kittle 28 points and 12.85 from Juwan Johnson in that Monday night game. On the other side of things, before we fully leave Judd's team here, he had a 10-point day from Kate Otten, fine. And his other tight end score was a 0 from Dalton, or from Dawson Knox. Not Dalton.
Yes. Speaking of lacking tight end depth,
Yeah.
Judd, it's also been a bugaboo for Judd this season, along with many other teams, but most of them are not as competitive as Judd is. So
No.
he's
Similar-
lacking in the tight end department.
Similar to the Saints, this is a Taysom Hill problem.
Right. Yep.
He's
Taysom
got
Hill missing the
Taysom
game.
Hill and Hayden Hurst are the only other two tight ends on his roster, and Hurst was on bye this week, and Hill is still injured.
Yep.
Or injured again. I don't know how you want to say it. He's injured.
It doesn't take much to get to a really ugly tight end room in this league. One injury or one bye week, and suddenly you're getting goose eggs in the lineup.
Yeah.
Even with a good team like this.
Yeah, but fortunately for him, it didn't matter this week. He got the win anyways.
Because all of his other players outscored
Yeah.
Criddle's handily. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot.
Yeah. So for
exciting things
Criddle,
going on.
he had the big day from George Kittle, and he had a renaissance day from Juju Smith-Schuster, who had 24 points, 130 yards. Welcome back to a real NFL offense, Juju.
Yep, you called it last week, said that they were going to run the offense through Juju and he was going to be very productive. And I laughed at you and you sure proved me wrong.
I will share my betting habits with you. You've seen me do the $1.25 on many different things.
Yep.
I bet $2.50 on Juju to get 25 yards, and then $1.25 on him to get 40, 50, 60, and 70 yards. 70 yards, the payout was 12-1. There was nothing past 7-1. I would have kept going.
Yeah, it was certainly not expected from Vegas.
No, which really it should have been, because he's the only healthy wide receiver on that option that runs the full route tree and knows the offense.
Right. They haven't really opened it up fully to Xavier Worthy yet.
No, Worthy is still working his way in. He's got a few plays that are designed for him every week, and he's fast as all get out. Did you see the one? Was it one of the Saints players got hurt trying to tackle him off to the right sideline? It was just, he accelerates so fast.
He does have the combine record for the 40-yard dash.
He's just, it's incredible when he gets that little bit of daylight in front of him. He just zips. Anyway, Juju, huge day. Unfortunately for Criddle, that's where it about ends. De'Ami Brown caught a touchdown, so he's in the lineup. Chuba Hubbard looks good with a functional offense around him.
Yep.
Outside of that, it's Tutu Atwell at 15. Outside of that, we have single-digit scores across the board.
Yeah, not a great week for
tough luck
for Criddle here. I mean, he's heavily invested in the Eagles, and this was the Eagles bye week, so his depth was definitely tested this week.
And he's got a couple of guys on the Chargers, a couple of guys on Detroit, and those teams were on bye as well. It's, just the good news for him is he probably doesn't have another bye week like this ever until next year when Philadelphia goes on bye.
Yeah, it was definitely bye week hell for Criddle this week, and it showed in the lineup.
Yeah, so not an ideal one, but if you were gonna face the second highest scoring team, you kind of want it to happen in a week you probably didn't have a great chance to win anyway. So, silver lining, I guess. All right, so that's that matchup. We're gonna move on. Our third highest scoring team was the Commissioner, Mel Crisp. Mel put up a 235.25. For those of you paying attention, that's 0.14 points behind Judd's score on the week. So a very tight matchup between those two, even though they didn't play. And Mel beat Flinch this week. Flinch put up a 223.56. So both these teams finishing over the median. Flinch, unfortunately, goes 1-1. Mel gets the 2-0 week.
Yeah, tough matchup. Flinch had another good week, just a little bit short because Mel had an even better week. But there was a bunch of teams that were clumped in this 230 range, and Mel was one of them.
Yeah, so Mel's team benefited from that explosion of points in Cincinnati. Again, 38 points, not enough to win the day, but enough to get Jamar Chase to 46.8 fantasy points on the day.
Yeah, that was a big game from Jamar Chase. This is the Jamar Chase that we're used to seeing that we haven't seen recently. 193 yards, 2 touchdowns.
I guess having a month of practice time in with everyone there and healthy has started to help. They looked real rough to start the year. They didn't play much in the preseason. I'm starting to think that maybe teams should go back to playing players in the preseason a little bit. Like, yes, it's going to result in more injuries, but you're probably less likely to start the season 1-4.
That's what I said after week 1. So maybe they should take the preseason more seriously.
So other big scores from Mel. Geno Smith, 20 points at quarterback. DeAndre Swift, 21 points at running back. Tucker Kraft, as you mentioned before, breakout game, 28 points, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including a 60-something yard touchdown. A farewell game for Kyle Pitts, 23 points for Mel on his way out the door, which is, I think, probably one of Kyle Pitts' best games of his career.
Yep. It's a very good game for Pitts on the way out.
Solid effort around, all around for Mel's team.
Yeah, and continues to do it without the help of Josh Allen. That Bills offense is in a funk. Allen was 9 for 30 this week. It was not pretty. Receivers were dropping everything. He looked. I don't
remember
flustered.
seeing a completion percentage that low in a long time.
He was banged up throughout the game, in and out. It was. It's been a rough.
He
stretch.
definitely had a concussion. He definitely did, and they didn't do anything about it.
Well, he certainly played like he was concussed.
Oh, that's rough.
9 for 30 is not great.
Well, the good news for Mel is that he does have Spencer Rattler on the taxi squad. He can elevate him anytime, get some extra quarterback depth. All right, over on Flinch's side of things, Lamar Jackson continues just his season of dominance.
He's looking like an MVP candidate again, just like clockwork. Every year, and him and Henry again both made the lineup. Henry had another big game, even though there was a lot more passing this week for Lamar, 350 yards and 4 touchdowns passing. Henry still found a way to get it done, 90 yards and a touchdown himself.
No 80-something yard touchdown from the first play, but he's still got in the lineup with almost 18 points. Lamar's worst finish on the season is QB9.
Yeah, he's good.
I think that was putting it a little bit mildly there, sir. Other big scores for Flinch's team. Darnell Mooney, 36 points on Thursday night. 9 catches on 16 targets, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a good thing we remembered to put him in our team that we co-manage.
Whoops. Yeah, a lot of new faces in the lineup for Flinch this week. Bo Nix, the Broncos offense finally scored some points because they played in Vegas, who was terrible. Bo Nix had a good score. Reynolds, Lil Jordan, McLaughlin. He had half his lineup was Broncos this week. Finally paid off to have all these Broncos.
Yeah, it's Bo Nix's best finish on the season, and he finished as a top 10 guy. I think he was number 8 or something.
It was a solid week. He finally threw a couple of touchdowns, ran for a touchdown. It was a very good week fantasy-wise, and good for them on the scoreboard. They scored 34 points, which not that long ago looked like it may be impossible.
Take it with a grain of salt because the Raiders have looked pretty rough, but encouraging signs nonetheless. I think we have to stop expecting rookies to be NFL ready out of the gate for all of them.
Be like CJ Stroud.
Yeah. That's the exception, not the rule.
Right. Well, we've been spoiled. We've had a lot of very impactful rookies at
I say Daniels runs roughshod over everyone and everything in his path.
Yeah. We've been a bit spoiled recently with some of these rookies coming in and just dominating right off the bat.
Yeah, it's true. For Flinch, couple interesting things at tight end here. Brenton Strange continues to fill in very well for Evan Ingram. 16 points, 4 catches, 24 yards. He got in the end zone, which is a large share of those points, but still, even without that, it would have been a 10-point day. It's a solid effort. And Cole Kmet, 11.95, 12 points. It's not going to sink you.
Yep, another trade acquisition for him this season.
Yep. from your team.
Yep. He's done a good job adding a lot of value in season to kind of help keep this roster afloat, especially weeks like this where you had a lot of star power on his bench. Guys like Breece Hall, guys like Devontae Adams, people that should be key every week starters. George Pickens, these guys, Dalton Kincaid, had a bunch of guys on his bench and still managed to put up a respectable score.
Our next highest scoring team is Big. Big put up a 230.35. He beat my team. I put up a 186.45. So big day for Big. Less big day for me, but that's all right. Big had a solid day from a lot of positions, but the big one was T. Higgins. T. Higgins put up 33.55 points. Everyone in Cincinnati ate this week.
Bengals offense
Yeah.
was very good this week.
I don't think we can expect 38 points, but it's really nice to see all of these pieces who are highly fantasy relevant flourishing.
Right. When that offense is clicking, it's fun to watch.
Yeah. Elsewhere on the team, Baker Mayfield continues to look very good. 26.4 points. Did lose the game on Thursday night, but I don't know if you can really put that one on the offense if you give up 36 points and they score 30.
Right. Baker did what he needed to do. He had a very good game.
Yeah. We talked about Nico Collins getting injured before, but before that, he obviously caught the long touchdown, had 16.8 points. Nice day.
Yeah, my favorite part is he had both Cardinals tight ends as his starting tight ends this week.
Yeah. So Dre McBride in there with a 16.8 and Elijah Higgins in there with a 7.95. Hey, whatever works. One target, one
Caught
catch,
a touchdown.
one touchdown.
That'll get you in the lineup in this league.
Yeah. Now, the only reason I was close in this matchup is because of the tight ends. Well, I wasn't close in this. I was close to the median, I should say. I was not close to big score. I lost by like 40. But on the other tight end front, Brock Bowers had a 31.2 point day, 8 catches, 12 targets, 97 yards, and a touchdown.
He's good. Who knew?
Yeah. There's a reason he was drafted.
The most productive
overall,
the most productive age-adjusted college tight end in history is immediately productive in the NFL as a rookie.
Who could have seen this coming? My other tight end was Jake Ferguson, who had a 19-point day, 6 catches, 70 yards. He's very, very useful in that offense.
Yep. And with Brandon Cooks out, they have to put even more on his plate when he's had no problem delivering.
Yep.
He's been a very steady target for Dak.
He is. The other two, my other two tight ends in the lineup were Isaiah Likely, who we talked about, had the 2 touchdowns. He had an 18-point day, and Pat Fryermuth, who had a 12-point day. I've got a lot of tight ends. I need more. Somebody trade me tight ends.
Likely 3 catches, 13 yards, but 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
18.5 points. Now, my favorite part about this lineup is Bryce Ford Wheaton.
We'll get there when we get there. This is the second time this has happened in my lineup.
I need to talk about it right now. This is the best. This is the best part of the lineup.
All right, go for it.
Bryce Ford Wheaton in the lineup without playing any offensive snaps because he returned a block kick for a touchdown. Once again, you have someone in your starting lineup without playing any offensive snaps.
It's a talent.
It's just
talent.
Incredible. Incredible.
I'm gonna I've got a lack of depth that allows me some flexibility at the end of my roster, which is why I have guys like DJ Dallas and Bryce Ford Wheaton. I'm going to go hunting for a third one. If I could find a third special teams touchdown with a 0% offensive snap share this year, I want some kind of reward.
I think you already have the most ever in a season with 2. So
we would have to assume so, but
you're just adding to your record at this point.
But just skip back over to Big's team before we get lost in the Bryce Ford Wheaton of things. His running back depth really played this week. Jared Cook, that's wrong.
Jared
Cook. Man, I've been doing this for too long. James Cook. Let's try that again. I saw the J Cook and I just like, yeah, Jared Cook.
Like Taylor Craft.
Names are not our strong suit, all right. James Cook.
I need more than initials.
Josh Jacobs, Jamal Williams, Ken Walker, all in his lineup, all between 17 and 19 points. That's that running back depth that we talked about when we previewed his team.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a good part of the reason why he was 40 points ahead of me, because I had guys like Hunter Lipke and and Tyler Goodson. Although I did try to trade Tyler Goodson before the day. He ended up with a 9.45. There's plenty of teams who could have used that.
Right, that would have been one of my higher scores this week. He would have definitely been in my lineup. Yep, Big has a very deep team. I mean, James Conner had 100 total yards and was on the bench. Brian Robinson scored 2 touchdowns, couldn't make his lineup. He's got a very deep running back room and a very deep roster in general.
I wonder if he wants to trade Brian Robinson.
We should ask. Put it out there in big chat.
We'll have to discuss. Anyway, on the other side of things, we talked about Bryce Ford Wheaton being in my lineup. That's because I had a very bad week outside of the big name tight end stuff. Alec Pierce continues to catch long bombs every so often. 3 catches, 134 yards on 3 targets. That's sustainable.
Efficient.
Joe Flacco, my quarterback 1 on the day. Feel like we should have mentioned this before now. 28 points.
No longer on your roster.
Nope, but he's gone.
He got you some points this week.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. All right. You got anything else you want to touch on here?
No, the best part about Joe Flacco's week was that 20-yard scramble that looked like he was running in slow motion. How can nobody catch him?
I don't remember who it was, but like 15 years ago, I remember either hearing or reading someone say that when Brady runs for a scramble, he looks like a tranquilized giraffe.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard me repeat that one in the interim.
Flacco
looked much the same.
I'll never forget when he juked Brian Urlacher.
Brian Urlacher, yeah. This is the worst juke ever. I go every now and then I go back and watch that. There's like one grainy YouTube video of it because apparently we didn't watch football in HD back then. That's how long ago this was.
Right. How did we watch football before? How did we ever know what was going on?
No, seriously, go on YouTube and find the Brady.
Wasn't that long ago?
Go online, find the Brady Jukes Urlacher video. You'll look at it and be like, "Is this from 1984?"
Right. I've seen games that were like 10 years ago, and they look like they were 50 years ago. We've come a long way, people. Enjoy. Let's get this over with.
All right. Our next highest scoring team was JMC. JMC this week put up a 190.37. Don't know why I said 190 like that. He put up 190.37 points, and he beat your team. You put up a 159.14. This is not what we expect from a defending champion.
That's the lowest score I've seen from my team in a while.
Not
a great week for me.
Not great for you. Unfortunately for JMC, he was also slightly under that median. So you guys both get the extra loss. JMC goes 1-1. Let's get into it. We're going to start with you guys having a combined, 27 points from your quarterbacks.
Well, my best quarterback got benched halfway through the game, and he was my best quarterback this week. So that's never a good sign.
Yep. So JMC had Brock Purdy as his QB1, 13.81. You had Gardner Minshew as your QB1. As you just mentioned, he was benched midway through that game, 8 points. And somehow you still had a quarterback in your super flex spot, Tyler Huntley, 5.21.
Tyler Huntley, the savior.
That's not great, guys.
Yep. I would say so. When 5 points is making your starting lineup, it's not a good week.
So for JMC, interesting week. He had Kareem Hunt as his RB1, Daria Gumbawale as his running back 2. Both of them had good weeks. Hunt had 20, Ogunbowale had 16.
Yep, he's found a way to kind of scrape running back production together here.
This looks like
team competitive.
This looks like the sort of thing you normally have been doing.
Right. Well, look on the other side. Look at my running backs.
You had Tyrone Tracy and Jordan Mason, but Mason's been an RB1 this year, and Tracy was getting the starting job. So the reason JMC came out ahead of things is because he had big days from a few guys that you basically didn't get on your side.
What, I have 2 guys over 15 points? Not a
you
great
had
week.
Tracy at 15. Ayuk, Jefferson, and Kelsey were your only other players over 14 points.
That's not good.
No.
That's not enough players.
That includes your quarterbacks.
That's not enough players scoring more than 14 points. That's a low bar to clear.
No. So before we get to your disappointment, let's talk about the good stuff that JMC did. He had 30-point day from DJ Moore, 2 touchdowns against his old team in Carolina. Zay Flowers in Baltimore, or actually I guess it was in Cincinnati, but for Baltimore, 24-point day. 7 catches, 111 yards, more than Garrett Wilson. Josh Downs, as I said before, continues to produce whenever he has a professional quarterback. 20-point day.
Did his best Wandell Robinson impersonation. 69 yards on 12 targets.
Yeah. He works around the line of scrimmage,
Works in PPR.
It does. A solid day from a bunch of guys on JMC's roster, which got him past your team, even if he didn't quite make it to the median. At the tight end position, Jonnu Smith, 17 points. Luke Farrell, I guess, took a break from blocking to catch 2 catches for 17 yards and a first down, which ended up with 5.7 points. A few other guys in there. A.D. Mitchell, Rashad Bateman caught a touchdown. A.D. Mitchell had a decent day. Shepard caught the touchdown, only catch of the day.
Yeah.
Superflex.
Not a great week.
Superflex for Gibson, 7-point day. Not a lot of production outside of those big games for JMC, but enough to get past you. So I could say it one more time. All right, on your side of things, we talked about it. Ayuk finally has a nice game. 8 catches, 147 yards. Good to see.
About time. Didn't help me this week.
Nope, no, it did not. Justin Jefferson, 17.7 on the day. Justin Jefferson has produced well this year, but I feel like you kind of want a little bit more out of him some of these weeks.
Yeah, 14 targets this week, but yeah, only 6 catches. It was not a great game from Sam Darnold. He's kind of come back to earth a little bit here the last couple of weeks. This week was very poor. He was just kind of chucking it in Jefferson's general direction for most of the game unsuccessfully.
If I was the quarterback of the Vikings, that's literally all I would do.
The good news is the Jets are even worse, so they still managed to win.
All right, so your tight end position, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, holding it down just like we always knew.
We all expected all season.
25 points from Kelce, 9 catches, 70 yards, 4 first downs. Mark Andrews, 4 catches, 55 yards, 3 first downs.
Hey, finally caught a pass. The only problem was 3 tight end touchdowns went to the other tight ends not named Mark Andrews.
Yep. Kolar caught 1, likely caught 2.
Kolar had a 55-yard catch up the seam and then caught a short touchdown and then likely caught 2 more touchdowns.
The one that likely caught on the scramble where Lamar fumbled the snap and well, that was a heck of a play by Lamar more than likely. Obviously, good job catching everything, but just fun to watch.
Lamar is fun to watch.
Yeah. Your team is having a hard time. This is odd at the wide receiver position because you have a really strong wide receiver, but you're getting, 13-point day from CeeDee Lamb, a 10-point day from Jalen Waddle. What did Olave have? 4-point day. Just bad wide receiver scores here.
Yep. Hasn't been a great start to the year. Obviously, that's why I'm now sitting at 500 out of the playoff picture currently. It's been a rough start.
Yeah. Fair.
And I'm not sure it's going to get any better because Waddle has Tyler Huntley and now Olave's not going to have Carr and 49ers offense hasn't been what it's been recently.
He doesn't seem to get along with Carr all that well.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler are going to be an upgrade for the passing offense. But we'll see.
Yeah. Time will tell. Yeah. The real question is, are you going to elevate? Is it Kolar or Kolar? Do you know?
I don't know.
I assumed it was Kolar, but are you going to elevate him off your practice squad? He had 18.6 points this week.
He would have been one of my highest scores. He's outscored Mark Andrews pretty much most of the weeks this year.
I'm not sure that's a high bar to clear.
Well, when he's usually scoring 0.
Yeah. So the question is, no, really though, I'm not kidding. Are you going to elevate him?
I have no idea what I'm doing with this team. I have lots of empty roster spots, so
Yep.
I certainly could. I have an entire bench scoring 0 points combined, so I could definitely cut a few of these guys and make some space to elevate another tight end.
Our last matchup is two teams who did not break the median. This is a very high stakes one anyway. So Mr. Marbles, Benign Rug, takes out little Jerry Seinfeld, Mr. Good News, at a score of 147.97 to 54.96.
The doctor got his first win of the year. He's off the schneid.
Yep. Benign Rug improves to 1-9. Mr. Good News falls to 0-10. We don't have to spend long. I'm going to start on Mr. Good News' side.
He had a quarterback score points this week.
He had a score. Yep. Mullins, Nick Mullins put up 0.96 points. I guess he came in and threw. Yeah, he came in and threw one pass, one completion, 24 yards. I love that when they bring the backup quarterback in, and you know it's only for one player. Like, oh, I'm pretty sure that every team in the league has like one play that they run on that.
Yeah, it's usually a handoff.
Yes.
Not the Vikings. Throw it deep. It's
Well, like,
never one play.
If the other team is looking at it like, oh, what do we, like stack the box or whatever. Like, so if you're, expecting that run, well, throw it over the middle.
Yeah, he probably audibled to a pass. Let's be honest. It's Nick Mullins.
Could be. He does like to sling it. So outside of that, literally only one score in the double digits here, Mr. Good News.
Yeah, he had several zeros in his
Several
lineup.
zeros, yep.
He
Keon Coleman
didn't have a
had
full lineup of people that scored points this week.
No. Keon Coleman had one catch on 5 targets for 49 yards and a touchdown. So 12.15. I guess you can't really expect much more when Josh Allen goes 9 of 30.
Yeah, well, I think that Keon Coleman might have been part of the problem.
Coleman had one drop for sure. I don't know. We're going to move on from this. The rest of this roster is tough. We will mention 2 zeros in the lineup. Mel chose to put in Davis Allen and Durham Smythe. I'm not sure why he chose those two, but
it's tight end heavy league. Got to get those tight ends in there.
Yep, tight ends. True.
I mean, they recorded a statistic 0 for 1. Both had a target at least, so it's something.
They were active.
It's more than anybody else on his bench did.
Yeah. All right, so over on the other side of things for Rugg, Jaden Daniels continues to be very good, put up 20 points. They didn't need to do a whole lot because Cleveland is very much so not good.
Yes.
A big day for Brian Thomas Jr., continuing to prove you and I wrong.
Hey, I took him in our early season mock draft in the first round.
You may have.
I've always been a Brian Thomas believer.
I believe this is revisionist history. I am quite sure that there are other people in the league who are not, that did not share your opinion, that will come with receipts on this one.
Go back and check. I definitely drafted him.
I believe that you drafted him. I don't believe that you're a believer.
I think I also drafted Keon Coleman in the first round.
Quite possible.
He's been great too. So I should start using some of these rookie picks instead of trading them all away.
Probably at some point. Anyway, Jordan Whittington, 19 points. Nice day for the early season pickup there.
Continues to do his Cooper Kupp impersonation.
Someone's got to be out there taking snaps. No Kupp, no Puka Nacua. The tight end position, Theo Johnson, 14.55, 5 targets, 5 catches, 48 yards. That's a nice day for the rookie.
Yeah, he finally turned all of that playing time into some actual production. Mm-hmm. When Malik Neighbors is not out there with a 40% target share, it opens up some targets for some other players.
Worth noting that this is the first time in recorded history that someone has had 2 Giants pass catchers in their starting lineup, because he also has Wan'Dale Robinson in there at 18.5.
Right, and his 36 yards on 9 targets continues.
He had a touchdown. That's the one he broke the tackle on.
To be ultra efficient. 2 first downs, 36 yards, 9 targets. He's paying the PPR bills this year.
Yeah. Outside of what we've already named, not a whole lot. A bunch of single-digit scores from, the depth pieces on Rugg's roster here. This was a low-stakes matchup. And
he is going to get Drake May going forward. So we may see some more points out of this roster shortly.
Yep, you would imagine that we get a
Drake
bit more.
May can acclimate quickly.
Yeah, and at some point, I assume we're going to get Bryce Young back in the starting lineup. They're not going to never go back to him. I don't know when.
He
But
came
at
in
some
late
point.
in this game this week and
Yeah, he got a
kind
little
of
bit of mop up duty.
sparked him a little bit, and then he took a bad sack. So
Sure.
work in progress for Bryce.
Yeah. And as you say, with the May starting, he's got the Jalen Polk stack. So if that one works out for real life, it'll work out for fantasy.
Yeah, because Polk certainly hasn't worked out with Jacoby Brissett.
No, I don't. One catch on 6 targets this week for Polk. They looked his way, but
Unfortunately, it was Jacoby Brissett throwing him the ball. So
yes, that would tend to put a damper on things. The good news for Rugg is that you expect to see better days from some of his pieces that were in the lineup this week but didn't score a lot, like Jordan Addison, only 8 points. Marvin Harrison, only 7 points, 2 catches on 7 targets. They did win the game. Harrison's been a little slow starting here. I expect that things will improve for both Harrison and Addison as we go along.
Yeah, he did catch a big 4th down target late in the game to kind of help them win. So he was still important in the victory, but only 36 yards, 2 receptions.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing for what I think a lot of people were expecting. All right, that's our last matchup for the week. So we're going to move over now and take a look at our Dynasty Daddy percentage chance to make the playoffs, America's favorite segment.
Every week it's more important than the week before.
Yep. All right, so top of the standings at 8-2 with a 98% chance to make the playoffs. It's big. He was the number 1 team last week. He's the number 1 team this week.
Yep, currently the highest scoring team by a healthy margin. He's well deserving of that number 1 seed.
Yeah. We've seen a little bit of stratification here. The next 3 teams, Mel at 95, Flinch at 93, and Flea at 92. Then we see a little bit of a drop off. Those 3 are all projected for a final record of 18-10, according to Dynasty Daddy, and Big is projected at 20-8. So he is projected to have that first round bye there.
Yeah, I think at this point those 4 are clearly the top tier of this league.
Yeah, and
certainly through the first 5 weeks they are.
Right. Just slightly down to that is Judd. Judd is at the same record as Flea, but with a little bit. Flea has a little bit of a lead in points for, not even a ton. It's only 25 points, but for whatever reason, Flea's at that 92% chance and Judd's at 75. So there's a bit of a difference there in the percentage chance to make the playoffs, even though on the surface the teams look very, very similar.
Yep.
After Judd, we have your team. You've taken a bit of a fall here with your 0-2 week down to 68% chance and your 5-5 record.
Yes, my team has been playing mediocre football, and I have a mediocre record, and now I have a mediocre odds to make the playoffs.
Well, I mean, you're still in that 6th spot in terms of the percentage chance, despite the fact that at number 7, Georgia Mike has a better record at 7-3. He's at a 56% chance to make the playoffs.
Yep, he's definitely had the better season so far.
And so his odds have been streaking upwards. Your odds have been streaking downwards.
We're like 2 trains passing in the night, but I'm going in the wrong direction.
All right, just after Georgia Mike, well, not just after, but after Georgia Mike is Criddle. And we mentioned it that Criddle had that kind of super bye this week with all the Eagles players missing. 0-2 on the week. It drops him down to a 19% chance to make the playoffs at a current record of 4-6. So he's got some ground to make up.
Yep, starting to fall a little bit behind the playoff race here.
Obviously, other teams will get hit hard by buys going forward. So maybe with a lot of his already out of the way, he can make up some ground in that. After Criddle, we have JMC also at 4-6 with a 4% chance. JMC did get a win this week, so he's not entirely out of things.
Kind of hanging out on the outskirts of the playoff race. Not dead yet.
Not dead yet. You will be. After that, we have myself, Rugg, and Mr. Good News, all with a less than 1% chance. Rugg and myself at 1-9. Mr. Good News at 0-10. We don't need to discuss any of that.
Combined record of 2-28.
Yes. I gotta say, I'm honestly a little bit surprised that I have only 1 win. Not that I want or care to have more, but you look at the scores that I put up, they've not been that bad. I was the 8th scoring team this week.
You have outscored JMC on the season, and he has 4 times as many wins. So.
Yeah, it just, again, it doesn't really matter. I'm not, no matter what happens here, we're not contending, but it does seem a little strange that I only have 1.
Well, you're second in points allowed, so you need to maybe fire your defensive coordinator.
I know. I'm just going to hire Robert Saleh.
You need a spark here on defense because you're getting a lot of points scored against you, which is why you're not getting any wins, and you're not scoring enough to get over the median. So hence the 1-9 record.
Not particularly worried about it. Like I said, it didn't seem to match up with what we've seen.
Yep. Yeah, you've been kind of just barely under the median several weeks in a row, and just barely in the losing column a couple weeks. So tough luck. Not that you needed it this year.
No. All right, so that wraps us up. That ends things. We got any final closing thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I don't want to talk about this week anymore.
You say that like every week, though.
On to Cincinnati.
Did you see the clip of Bill Belichick on the Manning cast calling out Peyton Manning and the Colts for piping in crowd noise? That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was well known.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It's an open secret that the league doesn't care to do anything about. I really don't like how the broadcasts pump in crowd noise now. They started doing it in the COVID season when there was literally no crowds and they wanted the broadcast to seem realistic, and it was awful like the first few times they did it. But even now, sometimes if there's not a great crowd, they pump in extra crowd noise, and it's every time I say every time I notice. I'm sure there's been many times where I haven't noticed it, but every time I do notice it, it just brings me out of things for a minute.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal.
I wish they wouldn't do that.
They don't need to most of the time.
No,
but
well, here's the thing: if it's a bad crowd, I want to hear the bad crowd. I want to hear that one guy in the 27th row who's got the booming voice who calls out, whatever, bad player or bad coach or whatever he's calling out this week. I said it before. My in-laws have the Patriots season tickets, and they sit in the 20th row or 26th row, 26th row, 22nd row. I don't know. They sit about 25 rows back, give or take a few. And there's a gentleman who's had season tickets for probably as long as they have, who sits about, 6-7 seats down towards one end of the row. And he is one of the very few New England fans I have ever encountered who absolutely loathes Tom Brady.
He's a Bledsoe guy, huh?
I don't know. It could be. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Brady cut in line in front of him at Dunkin' Donuts one time. I don't know. But he would constantly yell anytime there was an incompletion, "Bench Marsha," as in Marsha Brady. Like,
Marsha Brady.
I have heard this man call out Tom Brady as Marsha Brady countless times and call for him to be benched, call for him to be fired. This is now again.
I wonder how he's feeling about Jacoby Brissett right now.
My wife and I have been together about 15 years now, and I started going to the games about 15 years ago, which will tell you this is in the midst of the Patriots dynasty where Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the league. The Patriots are winning 14 games a year and going to the Super Bowl every other year. And this jackass is 3 seats down calling him Marsha every game, anytime he throws an incompletion.
Welcome to New England.
I was
Boston specifically.
I was watching the broadcast one time, and it was a really strange game. And it was like the second quarter, and the Patriots were on offense, and the crowd is like dead silent. The Patriots are backed up to their own end zone, or backed up, and we're watching the game, and I see Brady throw an incompletion, and I can hear this guy yell from the crowds on the national broadcast, and I'm like, that is awesome. So, like, those are the things that we're missing.
Right.
They pump in fake crowd noise. We're missing,
that guy.
Steve from Boston calling out Marsha Brady in 2014. They probably won the Super Bowl that year. Anyway.
I wonder how he's feeling about Jacoby Brissett right now.
Not great, I'm sure. No, I'll ask him. I'm going to the game next week. If he's there, I'll ask him.
Well, it'll be Drake May, so maybe he'll be happy
Maybe.
until he throws his first incompletion.
Probably not. That man is like a caricature of Boston sports. He hasn't been happy since Babe Ruth was traded in 1918. He's probably been in every game since then.
All right, it's a rough town.
Yeah, I don't. All right, that does it for this week, folks. We will be back next week. Let's try and get those trade numbers up. We had 6 this week. It's respectable, but we need more. We need more always. If we're forced to, we'll cover big trades from other leagues. I'm sure he'll fill us in.
He has enough to fill up multiple shows, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, we'll be back next week to do all that. But until then,
see you in the league chat.